This is your entourage for the week, huh?
He is. Mr. Clean doesn't talk, so I do the talking for him.
I like that. You're a spokesperson.
Very
That's
smart.
It. Thank you, Mr. Clean.
By the way,
Appreciate it, brother.
screw you, Connor. Connor's the one with hair. The rest of us are all follically challenged.
Which one doesn't belong?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's
Hair's
you.
overrated.
That's what I'm adopting. I'm absolutely adopting. It would help if I had a body like Whit. Unfortunately, I'm stuck with this dad
you
bod.
One or the other.
Yeah, exactly. I don't
it's
have
good thing
either.
You're good at fantasy football.
I do at least have that.
We all
as
have
well.
our traits.
We all have our things. Andrew, and you're known as obviously one of the greatest offensive linemen ever. I think line play is going to be so important in this Super Bowl on Sunday. Eagles are so stacked on the defensive line. Talk to me how you think this plays out, because if there's one weakness to Kansas City, it's been that offensive line this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually an interesting game because both teams, the trenches are so important to their identity, offensively and defensively. I think when I look at this game, you continue to break it down. You can go through all the scenarios from the coaches to the lines and who's going to have the advantages, but I think it gets to be kind of evened out when you start to do that and you involve the coordinator in Kansas City and Spags and really what he's able to do with his group and then what Andy Reid's able to do as a play caller. It starts to even those things out. And so I go back and forth every week of who I think is actually going to have the advantage, but this Eagles O-line and Saquon together feels unfair. I keep relating it. It's almost like when you see NBA teams all of a sudden end up with 3 superstars. Right. It's like, how is Saquon Barkley running behind this group of 5 guys who's arguably some of the biggest, most talented guys we have at their positions in the entire NFL?
Andrew, I'm going to ask you one of the hardest questions that I'm sure the Chiefs are talking about every day. You go into this game, how the hell do you approach stopping Jalen Carter?
I think it'll be interesting because, to me, I think with Trey Smith, you have a big, powerful guard who's built that way. I think that they'll inevitably slide to him and try to eliminate him and try to make one of the other guys beat him that's in there. Obviously they rotate some guys in there, but really, to me, Andy Reid's going to do it in a bunch of ways. It's not just about stopping Jalen Carter. It's getting the ball out fast. It's what he's able to do to kind of, you look at this year with Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage or at or near the line of scrimmage. They've been that kind of team all year. And I really would have said a week and a half ago that Philadelphia is winning this game, and I think it's going to be by more than a field goal. I think they win this game because I think they're that talented. And then as I've gotten through the weeks and I get closer, I keep circling the Los Angeles Rams game. And the reason I say that is who were the Rams this year? Not really an explosive offense, but go get first down after first down with Kyron Williams and Stafford and Puka and Coop and kind of just find their way methodically down the field, but a young defense. Well, who got Philly down to the wire in Philly with a chance to win the game? The Rams did. And this is going to be how the Chiefs play. This is what they've done all year, the same kind of offense in that sense, except for they're playing with a really good defense. And so that game, to me, what I circle and go, all right, if they could play the same game the Rams played, but they're playing it with a much better defense, they win this game. And so I've gone back to now, I guess I got to go with 15. I'm tired of picking against him and losing, so maybe I'm going to go Patrick this time and finally give in.
I picked the Chiefs as well because my take is that the Eagles are a better team, top to bottom.
Yep.
But Mahomes over Hurts, and Reid over Sirianni. And all due respect to both Hurts and Sirianni, who've had great seasons, but you're talking about 2 of the greatest of all time, and so the 2 most important positions on the field, right?
Yeah, there's no question, and that's what I think you start to lean back to after you go through the talent side of it, and you go, all right, wait a minute, what's winning football? All right, these guys win together.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. Crazy stat that I've been using all week. In the Mahomes era, in the playoffs, when you've given Andy Reid more than 1 week to prepare, either the Super Bowl or he had a bye, everything like that, he's only lost once, and that was to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. And we love Jalen Hurts. He's not Tom Brady.
He's not, and also I always say that game's a caveat too because he lost both tackles, his left and his right tackle for that game, which I don't know any team that could actually survive that in that scenario.
That's very true. All right, Whit, you blocked for Todd Gurley for a lot of years as well. What's it like? I think so much credit is Saquon's got that offensive line, but I feel like that offensive line gets better because they got Saquon behind him. So you block for an elite running back. What's that like?
Yeah, it's really one of those things that they do go hand in hand because what happens is you go out and you execute a run scheme and you go, all right, wow, you look at the production we got from that play if we just do it this way because Todd feels it that way and we feel it that way, so we're kind of both seeing it the same way even though we don't know really, right? Because the ball's always behind us. And you see this guy, oh man, he's able to produce if we do it this way. So now you go back with Saquon, and Saquon's like, I trust you guys, y'all trust me. And now we start to develop confidence. And it becomes almost like automatic. All right, we make this call, we know this play works. Like, we know how we're going to block it. He knows how to hit it and set up the blocks. And then when he gets through the line of scrimmage, he's going to make people miss, or he's going to run through arm tackles. And there develops this confidence to where every play call, you're like, ooh, this is the one last week we busted, or the week before. You start to know exactly what to do. And what I really go back in my mind to is when we played the Dallas Cowboys in the Coliseum in my first ever playoff win, I'll never forget Todd Gurley's long run in that game was a zone to the right where we had known that they were going to do some of these little stunts, and I knew that if I could just get past the D tackle and get up to this backside backer, Todd loved to wind those all the way back. And it happened literally in the exact same moment that I get up, he winds it back, he takes it to the house, and it really wasn't like, oh man, I did something extraordinary. It's that I knew how Todd loved to do it, and I knew we were going to get this look at some point, and it all happens at one time. And that's the kind of things that start to happen when your line's confident in what the back's going to do. He has the talent to do it, and then now our talent starts to shine because of really the confidence and belief we have in each other.
In the same mold, what is it like blocking for a quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes where, listen, I think there's a lot more timing and quick game in the offense than people realize, but in these moments when he needs to make a play, he's going to make a play. He's going to scramble around. He's going to do the Mahomes magic. As a tackle, what is it like knowing how it can turn into backyard football at any moment?
Yeah, I think that really you start to probably figure it out a little bit with him. I think probably guys when they first play with him, probably earlier in his career more so, he would kind of be all over the place in the pocket. And he was really good at it, but you're like, oh man, sometimes I don't know exactly where you're going to be.
Right.
But I think he's gotten so much better at that now. The ball's come out of his hands so much faster. He really uses his legs when he has to use his legs now, and he really has to ad-lib. He does it. And so I think that really, to me, it's a massive advantage, because when you start to go, all right, some of the worst downs you can have is we're sitting back there with the ball, and that's why I think like Jalen Hurts on the other side. You look at some of his worst downs this season, is he does have such awesome pass protection that he's just sitting back there for a while and nothing's really happening. That's worse for a lineman, because you're like, man, we've been blocking forever. Like, is the ball ever going to get out of your hand, or are you going to run? Like, do one of the two, but like, don't just sit back there, right? And so with Patrick, you can see that he's really figured it out. I'm going to get this ball out of my hand. I'm going to have a feel for how I set these guys up, and when I need to, I'm going to use my legs. And in the playoffs more than others, like, that's what Mahomes does. Like, I expect him to use his legs a lot on Sunday.
Andrew, you're a Rams legend. You're still in the LA area. You're involved with the team. I'm curious, were you surprised by when Cooper Kupp announces that the team told him, that they want to trade him, knowing how close, at least from our perspective, that him and Stafford are, that him and McVay are? Were you surprised by that? And have you talked to Coop yet?
Yeah, I did reach out, and obviously anytime after those things, there's a lot of raw emotions, and you're disappointed because you want to stay somewhere your entire career. I've obviously been through that. But yeah, it is interesting. It's kind of what's the vision for who they want to be going forward. I think they're trying to figure that out. I think they're trying to figure out, obviously, you look at really what they did. We won the Super Bowl. They reinvested in Cooper and Matthew and Aaron Donald and all this, and really kind of went aggressive to repeat, and it didn't work out. It was kind of a disaster. And now you're kind of living in that world of, all right, how do we get back to kind of stabilizing our book, stabilizing who we are, and start to build? Because the one thing I think is interesting, when you think about McVay's success in his career already, he hasn't had a normal structure to building a team yet, and he's been this successful. You came in, they had leveraged all their picks before he got there to get Jared Goff. Then he comes in, and all of a sudden you're trading guys, trading players and picks to try and build this team. You do it, you win the Super Bowl, then you cash back in to try and win it again. That doesn't work. Now you're flipping the books all over again. People thought they were going to have a complete rebuild. They don't. They're back in the playoffs 2 years in a row. They're finally at a point to try and build themselves back up, and I think maybe this is an approach to say, all right, how do we continue to build the weapons in the team that when Matthew Stafford and other guys leave us eventually, we have the kind of football team we can bring a young quarterback into and him have success.
It's been a wild week where we heard Cooper Kupp's been told he's going to be traded, and then on the other side, Myles Garrett has come out and said, I want to be traded. I mean, Andrew, you see all these pass rushers because of Thursday Night Football across the league. Is Myles Garrett still the #1 pass rusher in football?
I mean, I think he's obviously the guy that you put him in that category. To me, it's like regardless of whether they're 1, 2, or 3, that when you go into the offensive game plan, every single play that a coordinator says he's going to call that week is dictated like where is Myles going to be, where do we think he's going to be, and how are we going to have to adjust this play for it to work? And he is in that category. So without question, where you think he's 1, 2, or 3, he is a guy who changes the game plan every week for a team. So he's going to be a massive get if that happens. I don't know if Cleveland's going to be in the business of giving away an all-time type player, but it would probably take something pretty crazy to get him. But I think that if a team can do it, there's a lot of teams out there he can make a massive impact to, just like Cooper Kupp. I think that the reality is with Cooper, you're talking about a guy that from a cerebral standpoint is going to be probably smarter from a football philosophy, football concepts, offense, everything, than most of the coaches you have on your staff, offensive staff, maybe the play caller. The only guy might know more just because it's his system, but he is going to teach and be able to prepare and pass the knowledge and understanding of what a daily process to be great at something is better than anybody in the world in that offense. So if I have a young quarterback, I got a young receiver room, I'm putting in a new offense, to me, he's invaluable because of not just his field play, but what he's going to be for you out on the field as your coach-type guy who's in that huddle, helping guys get set up and understand what they got to do to execute.
Why do you think the production trailed off towards the end of the year for Cooper?
I think that really, to me, if we're honest, I think that Puka and Cooper are very similar type players. And when you start to put these teams together, we look at a lot of these teams, it's a lot more basketball than it used to ever be in the sense of it's all about matchups and like, all right, do we have this guy who can do this pass and these route concepts and this we want to do the run game, the tight ends, the personnel for that. Like, who do we have in all those situations? And that really dictates the personnel we play games with. And so I think when they think about it, I think to me it's probably, hey, you know what, Puka and Cooper, if we were going to style an offense, they're probably, the two guys are kind of so similar. One of them is going to be the lead guy in what we're going to do, and they're both kind of the similar guy. Whereas if one of them was this deep threat, with speed, who's going to take the top off of a defense, it wouldn't be such a conversation. But I think probably it's a move to say, rather than have two guys that are so similar, let's let Puka take that role in this offense. He's younger. He's somebody we can build around. We can save a little in the cap. And let's go find the guy who can be explosive for us. Maybe that true X-type receiver, true number one guy that they could really take the top off of defenses and let Puka work all the underneath stuff.
I have one last question for you, very quickly. You've been with Amazon Thursday Night Football for a couple of years here. At any point, are you sitting there and you look over at Sherman and be like, what the hell did you just say? What?
Sherm is a passionate dude. It's my absolute favorite thing, getting a chance. Like, I think it's really neat, especially, Tony obviously is like a joy. Anybody knows Tony Gonzalez knows what a sweetheart human he is. Cris is an all-timer.
I work with Cris at ESPN. She's the best.
Oh, the best. But really for Ryan and Sherm and I, like, all played during the same time, all retired at the same time. So, like, our stories and the coaches and what we understand about each other's buildings and the guys we played with, it's so fun to reminisce over our kind of time we played. So, look, we know Sherm. There's one thing. He's not wrong about anything that's coming out of his mouth, at least from his perspective, right? Sherm is always right. So, Fitz and I love getting him started. It's our favorite thing. You know this in the green room, right? You're going to get back there and discuss what we might talk. We know we're not going to say this on air, but we might throw something out there that we just want to hear Sherm get mad and upset and just, what? There's no way you think that, and like, that's Sherm, and that's who he is. It's so great. Love the dude, and I've loved the opportunity to spend our weeks with him every single week.
Well, it's been a lot of fun having you. It's been a lot of fun watching that show. You guys do a great job.
It's a blast.
There as well. Mr. Clean has gray eyebrows, which is a nice touch, by the way. I just noticed that.
I mean, listen, this is perfect partnership here. Listen, I got the opportunity to do this with Mr. Clean. We got our magic erasers. I got 4 kids and 3 dogs, so I know all about messes. So this was a perfect partnership for that. And, good-looking bald gentleman. What do you want to say?
I like
He's had a lot to say, Mr. Clean.
Yeah.
Mr. Clean doesn't talk. I talk for him, all right?
It makes a lot of sense. We are pro-bald guys here on the happy hour. So, Andrew Whitworth, always a pleasure. Thanks, Whit.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all very much.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.